In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to remove a background from an image using this photo of my buddy Anthony. It's called Remove Background. So if you just double click that, that would actually open up this image in Photoshop. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. The easiest way to do this is with this quick selection tool. So I just choose the quick selection tool. I can adjust my brush size if I want, or I can use the Control Option key on my keyboard or Windows Alt key if you're on a PC to increase or decrease the size, and then just drag over his face. Change the brush size to get his ear right here. The ear and the background kind of blend in, not just because of the colors, but also his face is perfectly in focus, but his ears and his shirt, they're kind of out of focus. So it's kind of hard to get this selection perfect right here. So you have to kind of go in there with a smaller brush and make your selection. Then when you're fairly happy with a selection, when you have all of the big important parts of the face or the body selected, even if there's not a wisp of hair selected, that's okay. Click Select and Mask. If you're on an older version of Photoshop, it's called Refine Edge. I can drag and drop this transparency slider right here so that I can actually see the background or have it completely transparent. When it's completely transparent, that's kind of nice, so I can see what it looks like without any of the background. I'm going to check on the Smart Radius button, and Photoshop tries to intelligently fix the edges. So if there's a wisp of hair or something like that, it will make that selection, and I could increase or decrease this. If I increase it too much, it starts to get rid of some of the edge that I have, and I don't like that. So you gotta make sure that it's not going overboard. We can also use the smooth button. Smooth will make your edges more smooth, so they're not as jagged. If there's not as many edges and there's not as many changes in directions, and that can be good, but sometimes for faces with hair, that's not a good option because you want to get those little details of the hairs. Feathering, I can increase just a little bit. Contrast, I'm definitely going to use right here. There's a lot of contrast between, say, Anthony's beard and the background, so increasing contrast will help Photoshop know to select the darker parts versus the lighter parts. This looks pretty good, and so I'm just going to select OK. Now with the selection made, I'm just going to copy and paste it. I'm pressing Command C and then Command V on my Mac, Control C, Control V if you're on a PC. I'm going to turn off my background, then just add a solid color in the background. This is actually an image I'm using for a documentary about Anthony, and I use some sort of color similar to this in the background. So you can see here what happened with the edge of Anthony right here. You kind of get this highlight. And I don't like that little highlight right there. So I'm going to go back and actually re-edit this. But first, I'm going to make this background layer a regular layer so that I could put it on top of this color layer. So now when I make this selection, I'm just going to quickly go over Anthony's face and shoulders right here. Make sure you get his ear. And now when I go to select and mask, I can see the actual background, so I can see what that edge looks like. I think it was actually a lot to do with this Smart Radius that created that sort of highlighted edge. So maybe I'm just going to decrease that a little bit. And I think feathering added a bit of that as well. And so if I do increase the feathering, what I'm also going to do is decrease or shift the edge negatively. So that decreases the edge and it kind of shrinks this. So we're not going to get any of that white background that's kind of shining through the beard right here. I'm also going to increase the contrast and the feather just a little bit. I like that kind of selection a little bit better. There are still some little white spots and we can deal with those in just a second. So I'm just going to select OK, copy and paste this. And now we have this selection. So I'm going to, just for the sake of right now, delete these other layers. I typically wouldn't do this, but I'm just going to delete those other layers to keep it clean. So to erase some of this white right here, I can use a layer mask. So I'm going to drag this down into a layer mask. I'm going to zoom in here on this photo. I'm going to make sure I have the layer mask selected. Press B on the keyboard to bring up the brush. Make the brush a lot smaller using this slider up here or the Control Option keys on a Mac or Windows Alt key. You've heard me say that a lot. And then just paint out some of this. It's kind of hard because I don't want the edge to be too smooth, and it might look a little bit smooth if I'm on the brush, so I'm gonna leave some of the detail, try to leave some of the wisps of hair, but really get rid of some of those bigger white spots. And same with up in his hair. Right here, get rid of this big one. I think there's one over here at the top just a little bit. Just shaping his hair just so it looks a little bit more natural. It doesn't have that big white from the background. So you can see how you could go in here and do a lot to this image and spend a lot of time finally editing it. And it really depends on how much time you have and what you want to do with it. But that looks a lot better than that other mask that I had before. So that's how you would remove someone from the background using the quick selection tool, using the refine edge tool or the select and mask tool that is in the new Photoshop, and then using a layer mask to get rid of some of the edge that you don't want. The great thing about the layer mask is I can go back and paint on what I just painted off because it is there. I just have to go in with my brush, say increase my brush size, change this to white, and paint it back on. Paint it on, undo, and you see what I've done. Thank you so much for watching. I think it's time for you to take action yourself and to go do this on your own photo. So take a photo of yourself and try removing the background. And when you have done that, post it to the course page so that me and the rest of the students can check it out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.